I'm holding my niece and looking at the flowers in the garden. My name is Olivia. I'm 32 years old. I have an older brother, Johnson, who's 4 years older than me, and he's the father of this niece. Then there are my parents, both of whom are healthy and well. Today, for my niece to play, I've set up a kiddie pool in the garden and filled it with water. As I gaze at the flowers, I recall an event from 5 years ago. I was 27 and Johnson was 31. One day, Johnson brought a woman home. He met her through a colleague's friend. He wanted to marry her, so he brought her to meet us. Her name was Emma, same age as him. She had a neat and tidy appearance, I remember. She arrived in a white suit. Despite the risk of stains, she wore it impeccably. She was reserved, only answering when asked, maybe out of nervousness. Their conversation was safe and bland, about cold hometowns and tasty fish. "What do you like about Johnson?" I asked her. Then, "He's someone I can introduce to anyone without embarrassment," she replied. That struck me as odd. It wasn't about Johnson's personality or anything intrinsic to him. I felt a slight unease that day, which later turned into conviction. Johnson got transferred to Los Angeles right after Christmas. It was a promotion. But then, since it's complicated to have a wedding after the transfer, I want to hold it before moving to Los Angeles. Johnson said, "I prefer to do it after moving to Los Angeles." But Emma countered, "It was only April, and he wouldn't leave for LA for another 9 months. Skipping a June wedding for one at Christmas?" I was puzzled until she explained, "It'll sound cooler at the wedding to say I'm working in LA. Her priority was boasting. "You could just say you're planning to move to LA next year," my mother suggested. But I want to introduce him as someone already working in LA. It has to be the real Los Angeles. Emma was adamant. What does the real Los Angeles even mean? "Well, the bride is the main character, so let's do it her way." Johnson, being laid back, just went along with it. So they settled on a whirlwind schedule, flying back the day before the wedding and returning to LA right after. That wasn't all. The cost of the wedding fell on us too. The wedding planner suggested placing a gerbera on each table would be cute, but gerberas look cheap. Use roses instead. Emma was adamant, even though we were the ones paying. Her extreme vanity was making me uncomfortable. Then an incident that maximized my unease occurred. The day before the wedding, I got a call from my mom while at work. I never received a call at work before, so I had a bad feeling. And it turned out to be true. "Dad, he's bleeding internally." My mom's trembling voice made my hand holding the phone shake. I went blank. Dad, a self-employed man, never had health checkups. He smoked, drank, was a bit overweight, and didn't exercise much. He was the epitome of unhealthiness. I remembered an article I read. Colon cancer progresses without symptoms. And he's been rushed to the hospital," my mom said over the phone, sounding pale. I couldn't just stay put. I reported to my boss and left work early to rush to the hospital. Seeing my dad sleeping in the hospital bed shocked me. I had imagined it in the taxi, but seeing it in person made my already blank mind go even blanker. My dad's face was white. No, rather, blue. Was he always this pale? Why hadn't he gone for health checkups or a thorough medical exam? Maybe this could have been prevented. But even with all that, this timing, we had an immediate problem to address. "The wedding is tomorrow," I said to my mom, holding my dad's hand by the bed. At least I had to keep it together. Yes, and it's too late to cancel the venue now." If we would have known this would happen, we could have pushed through with the wedding before moving to LA. Illness comes without warning, especially at a time like this. But it was already the eve of the wedding. My brother must have already boarded the plane. No chance of reaching him by phone. I hurriedly called Emma and explained the situation. "What? Hospitalized?" Emma's voice flipped. "Yes, so we're a bit unsettled," I said, my voice trembling with anxiety. But Emma threw back unbelievable words. Well, it's good he didn't collapse on the day. He can still make it to the wedding, right? What? I doubted my ears for a moment. Not on the day. He can still make it? Why? How does that even make sense? Thinking I hadn't explained properly, I repeated myself. So, my father, today, right now, had to be rushed to the hospital. So, tomorrow? Before I could finish, Emma cut in sharply. What are you talking about? It's my big day. He has to be there, even if he's dying. Your father will attend, and you and your mother too, of course. You're on reception duty, so come early. Attend? How can you even say that? As I stood perplexed, I heard a snickering voice on the other end of the phone. Because we invited 200 people, you know. It would look so bad if the groom's parents didn't show up. It'll look like we're on bad terms. Am I supposed to explain to each guest? The bride is the heroine of the wedding. I can't have people misunderstanding. Please, don't embarrass me. Sickness is all in the mind, right? Tell your father-in-law to buck up and be there tomorrow. Oh, and tell the groom I asked for his dad's attendance. I don't want to look desperate. See you at the venue tomorrow. With that, she abruptly ended the call. I gripped my phone, my hands trembling. Then, what happened? My mother asked. That woman. I told my mother about the unbelievable conversation with Emma. That's just... My mother was speechless. I know. I couldn't find the words either. Then, I'll be there. A faint voice seemed to come from nowhere. At the same time, a weak force gripped my mother's hand. It was my father, squeezing back. I'll go. For my son's big day. Even if I have to crawl. Dad. I was near tears, moved by his fatherly compassion. But the words that followed were not so simple. I've been suspecting, but now I'm certain. It's good that I realize now. We can't let him marry such an uncaring woman. It's my duty to protect my son. At first, I thought it was delirium, but listening calmly, I could only agree. I had reached my limit with Emma's vanity too. Then, we devised a plan to save Johnson from Emma, pretending to comply with her wishes while secretly plotting her comeuppance. On the day of the wedding, I was in charge of reception, so I arrived early to check in the guests. Then Emma, dressed in her wedding gown, arrived. The image of her usual white suit lingered in my mind, making her dress seem less striking. I certainly wasn't going to compliment her. Yet, ignoring my hostility, "Your father is coming, right?" Emma asked. The nerve of her. "He'll be there. You said he should come even if it kills him. He'll crawl if he has to." I retorted with all my anger. Really? Well, as long as it's not an embarrassing no-show. With that, Emma walked away. Just you wait. I felt a fiery desire for retribution burning within me. The ceremony ended successfully, and the reception began. With 200 guests, the hall was filled with chatter as people searched for their seats. Then a larger murmur rose from the crowd. What? What's going on? It was to be expected. There he was, in pajamas, in a wheelchair, covered with a blanket, and wearing an oxygen mask. My father, assisted by my mother, had appeared at the venue. The MC, confused and flustered, checked the time. "The entrance of the bride and groom!" she announced. With a fanfare, the newlyweds entered. Upon reaching the front and surveying the room, Johnson, the groom, suddenly shouted from the stage. "Dad? What happened?" His shocked voice set the room abuzz. "Emma." In the midst of this, my father managed to rasp out from under his oxygen mask. "Look at me. See? I made it, even if it kills me." Seizing the moment, I shouted as loudly as I could, ensuring my words reached the bride and groom's seats, like an arrow piercing with our collective anger. My father was suddenly hospitalized yesterday after collapsing. He's only just regained consciousness. Yet the bride, Emma, insisted he attend, saying it would look bad if the groom's parents are absent. Don't embarrass me. So, this happened. What? Johnson, who knew nothing of this, was speechless. My words had hit their mark. He looked bewildered, his gaze shifting between Emma, me, and my father. Then, "It's okay, Johnson. I have no regrets in my life. Thank you, Mom, for everything." My father whispered faintly, "What's going on, Emma?" Johnson confronted Emma. She stammered, "Wait, hold on. That's not how it—" She turned to look at me. Time to reveal everything Emma said yesterday. "Oh, I forgot to mention. The bride also said this. Don't tell anyone I asked you to get your father-in-law to attend. I don't want to seem desperate." I exaggerated the story with a bit of added drama. "I told you not to say that!" Emma was panicking, and I mocked her. So I said, "She told me not to tell anyone." The sound of my father's oxygen mask, reminiscent of Darth Vader from Star Wars, filled the room as Emma and I glared at each other. Everyone in attendance was silent, watching us. I continued, "Johnson, Dad had a massive internal bleeding yesterday and was rushed to the hospital. The bathroom was reportedly covered in blood. But Johnson, you were already on the plane yesterday. Unreachable. So I informed Emma of the situation. Not a single word of concern from her, just demanding he attend even if it meant dying. I was beyond shocked, speechless. That's why Dad's here in this condition. What do you think? Are you really going to marry someone who thinks it's okay to sacrifice others for her own sake?" I shared memories of my father and brother with everyone. "Dad, remember all you did for Johnson? Like when you helped him with a science project, the piggy bank contest? You made an amazing postbox piggy bank and won a prize. And for the summer camp, where you climbed trees to catch beetles for Johnson? You never caught any and fell from the tree." "Fell. That part was unnecessary," Darth Vader muttered softly, but it seemed no one heard. Tears welled up in Johnson's eyes. "Are you okay with a wife who can say such heartless things to a dad like that?" "That's right. Me too." A voice suddenly came from another seat in the somber hall. Turning around, I saw a woman, clearly heavily pregnant. "I'm due any day now. Yet Emma told me, come to the wedding no matter what. The bride is the heroine. Don't embarrass me." "What?" Her belly looked like she could give birth at any moment. It must be hard, even sitting down. But it didn't end there. "Me too!" another voice shouted. "I just gave birth a month ago and she said I wasn't sick." The situation spiraled out of control. Then the clincher. "I was just a friend of a friend of a friend, invited to pad the numbers. I hardly even talked to this bride." Even complete strangers were present as attendees. Why has it come to this? Johnson was speechless. "I wanted a big wedding, right? Your company has a lot of people, and it would look good for me too. I did it for you. Asking everyone to attend?" Emma's reasoning seemed completely broken. Then a sharp snap rang out. Looking towards the sound, a woman had slapped Emma's cheek. Emma crumbled to the floor. "That woman! How could you?" It was Emma's mother. "My daughter! She's always been like this. In elementary school, she'd say her dad looked shabby and shouldn't come to school events, always caring about appearances. Threatening to study abroad if her grades didn't improve. It was okay when it was just our family, but now she's troubling others. This is disgraceful." She then turned to us, deeply apologetic. "I'm so sorry for my daughter's behavior. I know sorry isn't enough, but please forgive us." Her mother, able to scold and apologize for her daughter in such a situation, was admirable, unlike Emma. Yet Emma protested. "Why are you embarrassing me in front of everyone? You're my parent." She looked ready to kick her own mother. Enough! Johnson restrained the chaotic Emma. I'm sorry. Really sorry to everyone. And Dad, I'm sorry I didn't know. Johnson began apologizing to everyone. Then, my father took off his oxygen mask. He said calmly, No worries. I couldn't stand her attitude, and I thought you'd suffer if you married her. What's it called? I even borrowed this Paco Paco. Wait, what? Emma gaped in astonishment. The Paco Paco mask my father referred to was just a plastic mask, not for oxygen inhalation. My mother, who worked part-time at a family restaurant, used these 3D plastic masks. It looks more like a sick person, he had said, deciding to wear it after discussing with my mother. From a distance, without a tube, it could be mistaken for an oxygen mask. As for my internal bleeding and diagnosis, Father tossed away the thick cushion he had been sitting on. It was hemorrhoids. What? Hemorrhoids? Bride, groom, and the entire hall erupted in astonishment. Ouch! 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 Father yelped as he tried to sit back in the wheelchair, without the cushion, clearly still in pain. Come on, Dad! You can't sit without a cushion. You just had surgery! Mother picked up the cushion he had thrown. Then she turned to Emma's mother, looking dejected. Please, raise your head, she said. Not many can scold their child and apologize so sincerely. I'm truly impressed by your genuineness. Emma's mother, with tears on her face, hugged my mother. My mother embraced and comforted her. Everyone understands now. It's annulment time. Johnson spoke coldly to Emma, having witnessed everything. 5 years later, Emma's true nature was exposed at the wedding, and she was disowned by relatives present, and naturally, by her parents too. Her vain nature seemed incurable, even with advice. Inviting complete strangers from her workplace to the wedding had made the entire fiasco known at her job, leading to an awkward resignation. I saw her once at a grocery store. She looked unkempt, in dirty clothes that hadn't been washed for days, her hair disheveled. I don't have a job. Can you help me reconcile with Johnson? She begged. He's in LA, but I bluntly refused. The water's filled up, Father called out, squatting by the side. He had been exposing his embarrassing ointment-covered backside for a while, but now seemed fine. And then, water pool! Looks cool! My niece, Mary, ran off my lap towards the pool. Indeed, after that, my brother fell in love with and married a French woman in Los Angeles, giving birth to Mary. She is 3 years old. Blue-eyed and blonde, she's like a little doll, melting all our hearts. Mary joyfully splashed in the pool, light glinting off the water. Take care! A clear voice called out, and my sister-in-law Sophia appeared, holding flip-flops. Sorry for the mischief, she said cutely. I love how she tries to learn the language for us. There's a festival today. Let's go together tonight, I suggested. A festival? Yay! Sophia beamed, just like Mary.